The Nodak Nerd is a proud member of OddPods Media.
Since May of 2008, Marvel Studios has been giving us movie upon movie about superheroes. And with the most recent release of Captain America Brave New World, I think it's time that I, the Nodak Nerd, rank every single MCU project from beginning to end. Now, a couple things with this. I am not counting anything prior to the MCU, so even things that are technically canon now because of like Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool versus Wolverine. I'm not counting anything that's not Marvel Studios specific. Everything that started with Iron Man all the way up through Brave New World, that's the only things I'm counting. I'm going to be skipping the What Ifs and I Am Groot because I've not watched those because something about them just did not grab my attention. I think I've seen maybe a couple episodes of I Am Groot, but I didn't get it. It just wasn't for me, so I stopped. And I've watched a couple episodes of What If just to check out how it was. And while I like the premise of it, I just have not dedicated time to watching it, which is, it is what it is at this point. But what I've done is I've gone onto this tier maker website and I've organized everything by release date. So we're going to start with Iron Man, which was the first one, all the way up through Captain America Brave New World. The categories that were populated, I'm just going to leave those as masterpiece, fantastic, average, bad, and disaster. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into ranking these movies. So we're going to start with Iron Man, the first foray into the cinematic universe. And right out the gate, this is a masterpiece. It's really hard to argue that, in my opinion. Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. And I love how this movie introduced everybody in and kind of had you hooked right away. And everyone acting was doing amazing. The cinematography, I think, was good. Watching Tony Stark, discover this, his powers, essentially. It's an origin story. From being stuck in the cave and building the first prototype suit all the way up till the end when he fights Obadiah Stane as the warmonger, which was a twist I wasn't expecting. I don't know exactly who I thought the bad guy was going to be aside from the 10 rings, but I completely missed that the first time watching this, that he was going to be the bad guy. And as I've said in previous things before, I have not read comic books, so I don't know how close these follow. But this movie, the first one out in 2008, still watching it to this day, it still is an absolute pleasure to watch. It's got great action, it's funny, it's got serious moments. It's got all the things that you need to just make a perfect movie. And I think this one could even get people who don't like comic book movies you could at least get them to watch this one. I think it's just that good. So Iron Man 1 is a masterpiece, and I don't think you're going to find a lot of arguments against that. Next up on the list is The Incredible Hulk. And I'm going to say that one is average. There's nothing super special about this one. The one thing I do appreciate is because we've already had multiple iterations of the Hulk, be it on TV with the Lou Ferrigno series or even the Ang Lee movie with Eric Bana. We know this story, whereas I feel like Iron Man, people weren't as familiar with him as they were with the regular set of heroes. I like that this one condensed the origin into a credits roll. I think that was perfect, just to get us up to speed with what's happening at the beginning of the movie. Um, I think Edward Norton was great in this role. I'm really irritated to this day that he uh, had to get all high and mighty where Marvel didn't want to work with him anymore. I think that's really unfortunate. But uh, this Hulk was mean, he was vicious, and I loved the up close action with him and Abomination. I thought that was very intense and fun to watch. Introducing Thunderbolt Ross and Betty Ross into this was great. It's too bad that they have more or less ignored those characters for the better part of the MCU. Uh, the Abomination looked really cool. Like the special effects in this one were great, and overall, I think this was a very impressive movie. It There were some moments where I think kind of held it back from being listed in the fantastic category, but this one gets slept on. I think a lot of people forget this because we've had Ruffalo as the Hulk for so long that people forget that this is still part of the MCU and is truly like the last time we've had the Hulk on his own just because of the whole rights thing, which I think is so ridiculous. But overall, this one's great. Not fantastic. It's not bad. I still enjoy watching this one. So we're gonna go with average. And then right after this, uh, hot off the heels of the first Iron Man being such a success, yawning just thinking about it. We've got Iron Man 2 and it's bad. I have been a huge I'm not for this movie. I've tried giving it some chances and I think it's grown on me maybe ever so slightly, but at the end of the day, this movie is completely skippable. You don't need to watch it. Uh we see, Tony Stark continuing on his path of trying to be a hero but also trying to indulge his own, self. We see him struggling now with the core poisoning him, and he's trying to figure that out on his own without asking for any help because that's not in his character. Um, and then ultimately, they did nothing with that. I don't think there was a lot of growth with him with his sickness and that. We're really introduced to the Black Widow in this movie, which she could have been introduced in um, anything else. They could have honestly introduced her in the Avengers, and I think that would have been okay. Um, Whiplash was boring as a villain. I was not a fan of him. I hated every time he was on screen. Uh, the problem I think that this villain faces is it's more or less kind of like using his technology against him instead of having something new. The one highlight that this movie really has is having Justin Hammer in there because he's such a fun character. Uh, I love him as an actor. Anytime he's on screen, he's awesome. And it was great seeing him in here, and I'm really disappointed that they have done absolute nothing with that character. I think the only other time they mention Hammer is on one of the Netflix series. They were buying weapons from Hammer, he's never on screen. It's just the name. It's too bad that they haven't brought that back. But hey, they've already brought back people from the Incredible Hulk this year, so maybe they'll be doing more stuff with Hammer because he's still alive. I can see that happening. But overall, this movie is just completely passable. Uh, it's I'll watch it just because it's not the worst thing I've seen, but I just don't find a lot of joy in watching Iron Man 2, hence the bad category. Moving on, we are now bringing in Thor into the fold, and with Thor, we have an average movie. Another origin story for those who weren't familiar with Thor and all of that mythology, introducing that into our cinematic universe. Um, oh, I love doing these so late. I'm so tired all the time. Chris Hemsworth is great as Thor. Uh, Tom Hiddleston, awesome as Loki. Uh, shocked to see like Anthony Hopkins in there as Odin. Natalie Portman, pretty stacked cast. I know the director is a wildly popular one to some people, but overall, I found this movie to just be kind of boring. And I saw this one at like a midnight release, and I fell asleep in the movie theater to it, which nowadays is understandable. But this came out when I was in my uh, very early 20s, and that's pretty crazy to fall asleep to a movie at that point. It did some great stuff. I loved, Thor's redemption part of it, but uh, the whole scene with the frost giants, I hated how dark everything was during that. I wish that they would have been able to, do do that scene but brighten it up a bit, or do something where it's, you're able to see better than what we were. And ultimately the movie coming down to having the destroyer as like villain A and then Loki as villain B was fine, but I still feel like it was missing something. I don't know exactly what it is. It's hard to describe what this movie was missing. It was missing some oomph, I think is maybe the best word to use, is oomph. But it's fine. I don't mind watching it, but I don't necessarily look forward to watching it. So it's just right in the middle there. So we're going to move on to Captain America, the First Avenger, which I'm also going to put that at average. Uh, Chris Evans was great. I loved watching him come up as a hero. The iconic "I can do this all day" in the alley, and uh, seeing him just really be persistent about wanting to do something with his life. The rest of the cast was really good. Um, some of the sets were great. I liked the war montage. I thought that was fun. Um, it's a fine movie. I do wish that the villain would have lasted a little longer or been more prevalent in the movie. With Captain America, I feel like there just wasn't enough time for the two of them to be together before, more or less, the Red Skull ends up killing himself because he touched the Tesseract, which was kind of a cheap way for him to go. And the lead in, where this movie brings him current day was kind of nice how they did that. Sebastian Stan, he's quickly become one of my favorite actors, and this is the first time I remember seeing him on screen, and I thought he was great as Bucky. Surprised to see Tommy Lee Jones in this one, but that dude always kills it every time he's on screen. And no, it was good. I mean, it's definitely better than I would say it's honestly better than Thor and uh the Incredible Hulk. So we're gonna move that closer to there. So there's Captain America. It's average. It's a good first run for Captain America's movies, but we just haven't gotten to that full potential just yet. Now we're gonna move on to the first Avengers movie. I mean, this was that peak buildup. This was the first time that all these heroes that you see now on screen uh, are coming together, and it was a big deal because we really haven't had a superhero movie like that. And I'm going to go ahead and put that at fantastic. Some of the script was really cheesy, even cheesy for like a comic book movie. uh, the scene that comes to mind is the one where Loki is talking to Nick Fury about the ants and the boots, and then Nick Fury says, "Are you going to stomp on us?" I hate that delivery every time that comes in on the movie. I cringe. It's real bad. So yeah, aside from some weird dialogue, the action was awesome. It was cool seeing the Hulk again because we haven't seen him since the Incredible Hulk. We really get to see Hawkeye flex because the first time we ever see him was in Thor, and I missed it completely the first time I watched it because I was very unaware of who superheroes were at the time. My buddy I went to the movie with, he's the one who pointed that out to me that he was like, a superhero. I was like, oh, okay, cool. But seeing everybody, come together to fight off the alien onslaught was great. There was a lot at stake in this movie. Um, we see some growth from Iron Man, where he, more or less is going to sacrifice himself to save the world. Overall, it was just really good, and I mean, we got that iconic, camera pan to all the heroes. So good. Um, Loved it the first time. I love it every time I rewatch it. The dialogue's a bit too corny for me to, put it up at masterpiece, but fantastic is still a great spot for it. And we're going to start the next phase then with Iron Man 3. I'm going to put Iron Man 3 as average as well. Obviously, a step up from Iron Man 2 for me, but still not great. We even more growth from Iron Man dealing with the issues that he had with the alien invaders from Avengers. We see him kind of lose his suit and kind of have to start from scratch again. More Pepper Potts is good. The Mandarin subplot was I thought it was fine. I know a lot of people were not a fan of it, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And Guy Pearce's villain was pretty good when he eventually, was revealed to be the villain. Some of the fight scenes with the red stuff, I always forget what it's called, but I thought that was uh, very cool, and how Tony was able to figure out what was causing it. Um, yeah, it was good. Better than Iron Man 2 for sure, but kind of sticking in that middle of the road of the MCU. Um, Unfortunately, we have Thor: The Dark World, which is bad. This movie is so passable. Even after just watching it fairly recently, I could not find a whole lot in there to just enjoy. Uh, it's still missing that oomph. We had some moments for sure. I mean, Loki's back on screen and he's delightful anytime he's there. A little more Natalie Portman story. The Red Aether was could have been introduced any other time because ultimately it just didn't do a whole lot. I don't remember if I said it just a little bit ago, but the villains are just completely forgettable. Um, it was kind of a disappointment. I remember buying this one and then watching it and just sitting there being like, well, I guess that movie happened, but it's not the worst, but it is definitely pretty close to being the worst one of the entire MCU as far as the movies go. But it's not a complete disaster, so we'll just go with that. We have Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and that one is a masterpiece. I love the Winter Soldier so much. I love seeing Bucky come back, and Captain is just uh, shocked that his friend is back, but he's villain for most of the movie. I love how they introduce all that. The subplot with Hydra kind of being in Shield was crazy. We really see just this nonstop action through the movie, and it's gritty and it's real and it's down the earth and uh, just great. The entire runtime, you're invested in this movie, and uh, I wish we'd get more like that. But as long as we just have these couple like masterpieces, it really just gives us something to look forward to when we do those, eventual rewatches, whether you're watching it chronologically or in release order. Uh, it's a banger every time. Just awesome, awesome movie. And we're gonna move on to another masterpiece. We got Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, I didn't know who any of these people were, and James Gunn introduced all of them in one shot and blew me away with this movie. It had a lot of heart. It had some great action scenes. It had some really funny moments too. The cast was they melded so well together, and the villain was devastating. Uh, they did some great lore dropping with the collector and how he talks about all the Infinity Stones for Thanos. Um, it was just a great movie pretty early on into the MCU. I think this is kind of when they were starting to, hit that stride where everyone was just on board with these anytime they came out. It's hard to argue against Guardians, it's so well done, and uh, I think this is another one of those that you can get non-comic book movie people to watch it and enjoy it. And then we have Avengers Age of Ultron. And, when I first watched this one, I was not super impressed with it. But the more I've watched it, the more I've come to realize it's much better than my initial viewing. So I'm also going to put this at fantastic. I feel like the writing was improved on this one compared to the first one. We don't have super corny lines. The beginning actions, scene where the Avengers are attacking that hideout where they meet up with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. That whole sequence is great. Got that another iconic, camera scene. We have the Hulk fighting Iron Man in his Hulkbuster armor, which was awesome. I loved that sequence. Um, James Spader's Ultron was so creepy and kind of real with our current state of like AI and stuff. It's a little frightening, but just another good team up movie where the stakes were high again. Lifting up that city and dropping it would have been devastating to the planet, and everyone comes in and saves the day, but um, just another movie setting up for future loss and things like that. It was great. I love watching this Avengers movie as well as the first one. And then we are introducing another hero into the MCU. We have Scott Lang's Ant-Man, which was also fantastic. I did not see this one in theaters. I went and just bought the DVD, brought it home, and just another great one. A mix of some really funny moments, like with Luis when he's doing all his dumps. I love those stories. Um, Watching Paul Rudd be funny, but also be very serious and turn into a hero was awesome. I loved the training sequences. The suit powers were cool. Uh, the villain was like you really just did not like that guy. Even the first moment you see him on screen, you're like, I really don't like that guy, but he played it really well, and it was a cool heist action movie, and um, also had like probably one of the grossest MCU deaths, which is kind of a shock, but um, it was awesome. I love watching Ant Man, and always look forward to that one when it comes up on the replays. Now we move into Captain America Civil War, the third Captain America movie. And this one is also a masterpiece. I love watching Civil War. It's, a mini Avengers movie in a way, but um, I think this one really just kind of grounded that in a reality where, hey, there's some real life repercussions to being a superhero, and seeing the teams, kind of split up for who's right and who's wrong and trying to argue their own way. The infighting was great. Um, the introduction of Spider-Man was unexpected. I wish they wouldn't have put that in the trailers. They should have just saved that for a movie release, because that would have been such a fun thing to talk about after the movie came out. Um, it was, I mean, it's so great to see Spider-Man on screen, for the little time he was in there. Uh, Seeing, Baron Zemo be the one puppeteering a little bit behind the scenes, to get them to fight was great. He's such a slimy guy. One of those kind of villains you just like hate, but you also like to watch him because he's so good at it. Uh, just a fun, serious superhero movie, and the Captain America trilogy is pretty strong. Like, uh, to be average and two masterpieces, at least from my point of view. Um, Pretty crazy. Doctor Strange was fun to watch. It was kind of slow at times. It was enjoyable. The villain was uh, more or less forgettable. I really do think that Mads Mikkelsen was very uh, poorly casted as this villain. I wish they could have saved him for somebody else in the MCU. I don't know exactly who, but I do think that this guy was just I don't remember what his name is. So there's that. Um, just not a great role for him as the or the forgettable villain. The special effects on this one were out of control. Like, it was so cool to see all that stuff happening. Benedict Cumberbatch was awesome. Uh, I think he portrayed the snobby doctor really well, who lost everything and kind of had to build himself back up. Um, Kind of like a Tony Starkish thing, but some of the slow moments and the forgettable villain, I would say this one is pretty average as well. But I do enjoy watching this one more than Iron Man, Hulk, or Thor. So we're gonna put that there. A lot of promise here, and hopefully we'll see more of Doctor Strange in the future, aside from the only other movie that's his on here. But at least we have that in a pretty middle of the road spot. Guardians 2, coming in again. James Gunn just kicking butt with this franchise. More fine tuning here, a lot more humor, a lot more emotion in this one. Once again, great soundtrack. Uh, the villain was great. Was not expecting that at all. But overall, I really do enjoy Guardians 2 as well. So we're going to put that one as a masterpiece. It's hard to argue against uh, everything going for these movies. They, like, you pretty much, the Guardians movies are just watching Quill slowly lose everything he loves. And as unfortunate as that is, I think it really just kind of goes to show uh, his character and why he reacts the way he does in one of the Avengers movies coming up. But I mean, Guardians 2, we got a lot of iconic moments. We got Mary Poppins, y'all. We got um, so much goodness out of this one. So another masterpiece from James Gunn. Bravo, sir. You, like, with how well these Guardians movies did, I'm really looking forward to what he's going to do with DC movies. Uh, the trailer for the trailer for Superman looks great, so I'm looking forward to that with how he's done with these. And now we get into the first official movie for Spider-Man. We have Spider-Man Homecoming. And a lot of people are very mixed on these Spider-Man movies, but I do think that they are also a really strong trilogy of movies. Um, this one we had the Vulture as the villain. I think uh, he was done really well. We also have Shocker as a villain, which I appreciated because he was always one of my favorites from the animated series. Uh, that iconic outfit that they even had that in the movie. I really appreciated that. Uh, Tom Holland is great as both Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Um, it's not necessarily an origin one because he is already established as Spider-Man, but we'll get into that later when we get to No Way Home. But I think that Spider-Man itself is good. I mean, I love watching this one. I think everything just rolls together well. So I'm gonna roll that on fantastic. Not a lot of notes with that one. It was fun to watch the way that the movie just flows, and when Adrian Toomes finds out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and the little cinematic like the green light changing when the idea pops in his head, he finally figures it out. I thought that was a nice touch, and it's Spider-Man on screen, and I think he did a good job. Now we have Thor Ragnarok, which was thankfully a step in the right direction for the Thor movies. We're introduced to Hela, who is played wonderfully by Kate Blanchett. Um, Taika Waititi directed this, and they also introduced Korg, who was awesome. Uh, we have the um, I forget what the heck he was called in that movie. Jeff Goldblum's character, like the Grand Master or something. I mean, he was awesome. We have the Hulk fight. I do wish Hulk was a little more in this one. Um, but the fight back on Asgard was, you know, pretty epic. Scourge was really cool. Uh, hard to find a lot of fault with this one. It had a good blend of humor, like the beginning when he's hanging by that chain talking to Surtur and he spins around and he's like, "Oh, hold on, wait till I'm around." Like funny, like stupid funny, but and Korg was great. We're gonna put that at fantastic also. I love watching Thor Ragnarok. It's a treat every time it comes up. And another hero that is introduced in Civil War, who now has his own movie. We have Black Panther, and Black Panther is amazing. I love the hero. I love the lore of the vibranium. Michael B. Jordan absolutely killed it as Killmonger, um, who thought he was doing the right thing but was going about it all the wrong way. The world building was great. Martin Freeman was awesome as the Agent Ross. Uh, all the actors are just doing their best in this movie, and it really shows. Like everything was working well with this one, so I'm gonna put that as a masterpiece. I love watching Black Panther. Black Panther is great. Uh, don't really have too many problems with it that I can think of. Um, I think it was really well done, hence the masterpiece. And then we move on to Avengers Endgame. Nope, sorry, Infinity War. Infinity War is up in the masterpieces too, because holy cow, did that movie just kill it. Um, Bringing in Thanos, looking for the Infinity Stones, and you really just see the true threat that he is. and the stakes are could not be higher than they are in this movie. And let's just say it, that ending sucked in all the right ways. Like, to leave that movie theater with everyone having lost and with no post credit scene, and you're just in shock. You are in shock when that movie ends if you saw it in theaters because they lost. And you're like, well, how are they going to fix this? Because you really had no idea. Um, it was truly a moment for watching this in like a movie theater, to have that and then to have to wait was crazy. The Russos just killed it in that movie, and um, I think it was great. I absolutely love Infinity War. And then we move on to Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Ant-Man and the Wasp is about as average as it can get. I do think it is still better than Iron Man 2 and Thor the Dark World. Not by a whole lot, but I think it's enough to put it in the average movies. Um, I mean, I love seeing Ant-Man on screen, and Evangeline Lilly as the Wasp was awesome. You have the rest of the team in there. Uh, we're introduced to Ghost, which was a really cool like bad guy. Um, I liked the reveal of how all of that was going to work. I do think that Walton Goggins was another one of those bad guys who was just strongly miscast, and they could have utilized him for something better just for how good he is on screen. Um, but overall, I still enjoy watching Ant-Man and the Wasp more than Iron Man 2 and Thor the Dark World. So we're just going to leave that as average, which is not bad. You know, like middle of the road is okay. Captain Marvel, I loved Captain Marvel the first time I watched it. Subsequent, rewatches, it's still entertaining. She's a cool hero. I love Brie Larson. She's one of my favorites. Um, I think I'm actually going to put that one as an average as well. Some of the parts kind of tend to drag. Uh, it didn't really have. I feel like the villain itself was not super great when it's revealed to be like Jude Law's character, and I guess the whole Kree people. Um, I think that part could have been, I don't know, something different. You're kind of left in the dark how she got her powers, and then it's revealed, and it makes sense. But overall, I do feel like the movie's just very middle of the road, which is fine. Um, I think some tightening up of some things would have brought it up to the fantastic level, but we'll just keep it at average because it's fine. It's fine as a movie. Avengers Endgame, I mean, come on. It's a masterpiece too. How they made time travel work without it being annoying was a feat all on its own. Um, the stakes are at their absolute highest in this one. I think everything made sense. It was cool watching everybody come back. Uh, the there's videos online of theater reactions of uh, Captain America picking up Mjolnir, and everyone cheering for that because like they kind of teased it back on Age of Ultron when he picked it up and it moved a little bit. I mean, it was funny, but it was cool to see that actually happen on screen. And then when all the portals start opening behind Captain America, when Falcon's like on your left, and everyone starts coming out to save the world, we finally see Iron Man's character arc come full circle, where he does get to sacrifice himself to save all of humanity. Um, Touching. I mean, had you in tears. Um, so even though like they won, they still lost because losing Tony Stark was a heavy toll. We lost Black Widow in this movie. Uh, I mean, it's still just a cinematic feat to have, Infinity War and Endgame just be these two juggernaut movies that are amazing is amazing. Um, so we're looking pretty good here. A lot of masterpieces, and maybe that's because I don't know, easy to entertain, but I don't know. I still feel like it's pretty fair. Spider-Man: Far From Home. We are introduced to uh, Mysterio, who I was really excited for because he was always a favorite of mine on the cartoon as well. Um, Utilizing Stark's AI drone technology thing to, make things look like they're happening when they're not was cool. Thinking about it, it's kind of silly that people wouldn't be able to figure that out, but we're not in this world, so you have to really just suspend that belief that this is happening. Um, Once again, Tom Holland killed it. They really made this work. We are we reveal to the world that he is Spider-Man, bringing J. Jonah Jameson, into this world as the Daily Bugle, like Alex Jones kind of guy was, I think, a great touch. Um, Really cool. Uh, I love it. I would also put this one as fantastic. I do enjoy the Spider-Man movies a lot. I think Tom Holland does really well in those. So, with the conclusion of that one, we're going to jump into the TV series that they released. So many all at once, it seems. We have WandaVision, which came first, and WandaVision was very enjoyable. I thought right from the gate that WandaVision was a fun show. Once you kind of figured out what was happening, and then the big reveal happens, and it's really well done. Um, this is where I'm going to have some issues though, because I do think that the difference between fantastic and average has to be pretty drastic. So I think I'm just going to put this as average. It's not that I completely hated it. You know what? I'm actually going to put it at fantastic because when I remember watching it, I thoroughly enjoyed that whole show. Um, the twist with Agatha was I didn't see coming. Um, I think it had a great conclusion and led into a really cool Marvel movie at the end of it. And overall, anytime Scarlet Witch was on screen, it was enjoyable, and I think she really just nailed her multiple roles as the Scarlet Witch in there. Um, and I didn't mind like the twist of the characters and stuff too, with like Quicksilver. Uh, Enjoyable time. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier was also a very enjoyable show, but I don't know where to put this one because while I enjoyed a lot of it, I do think that um, there was some more like kind of downtime that I think could have been better. I think they handled this. I mean, this one really had like the stakes of, oh, everyone who got blipped away came back. How do we handle that? I think that was a really cool real world problem to have uh, talked about instead of just completely ignoring it. We're introduced to the U.S. agent, who's played wonderfully in this show. The flag people, I don't remember what they were called. Um, I think I think this one's also fantastic because this is where we truly get Sam Wilson becoming Captain America at the end because he's dealing with, hey, I was given this thing, I don't think I'm ready for it, I don't think I deserve it, and to all of a sudden, go through all this stuff and then have him get it, I think was great. I need to rewatch these series because it's been, I watched them when they came out, and then I haven't thought about them since. But I really did enjoy Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Loki. Loki is a masterpiece. That show was just so well done. Handled all the multiverse stuff well that we saw in Endgame. how they reintroduced Loki after he had died um, was really clever. The TVA was such a cool concept and really just opened this universe up to so much stuff happening. Uh, Loki's great. I loved it. Um, Finishing that first season just really had you itching for more. Um, we have Black Widow. We're introduced to the Red Guardian in this one. We're introduced to Yelena officially in this one. I believe, yes, I believe this was the one that she was introduced in. This movie just came out way past its like prime because we lost Natasha in Endgame, and all of a sudden you give her a solo movie for what purpose? To just really show kind of how she came up and overcame like her upbringing. I don't know. It just seemed like a waste of time. This would have been the movie that needed to take place instead of Iron Man 2. So I'm gonna put this as bad also. There's just not a lot to this one. I think I'd still watch it over Iron Man 2 and 4 2, but not for a whole lot. Mostly because of Red Guardian and Yelena, because I really enjoy both of their characters. But like the special effects in this movie were not great. The villain was a bad guy, but he just really wasn't as bad a guy as he could have been, or and it just I don't know, it just seemed pointless. It just seemed like, hey, we have to give you a movie. Here's your movie. Too bad your character's dead, so none of this matters. You know she's gonna live. You know what I mean? Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings was fantastic. Love Shang-Chi. Uh, didn't know what to expect with this one, and we got some great martial arts fights. We got some cool, uh, you know, mystic magic and things like that. And really, the only thing that holds this movie back, unfortunately, and I hate to sound like I'm beating a dead horse, is going to be Aquafina because she's just grating to me. And, you know, it is what it is. And I hope we do get another Shang-Chi movie in the future. I hope we see him at least come up in the next Avengers movie. Like, they have to reintroduce this character somewhere because he's such a good character. And we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, Shang-Chi is fantastic. I love watching that one. The Eternals. The Eternals, I had a problem with the first time I watched it because I was bored out of my mind and I kept falling asleep every time I would try to watch it. Um, I wasn't into it, and I couldn't tell you what was preventing me from really enjoying this movie. But on my most recent, go through of all the MCU, I just sat down with one. I was like, you have to watch this one. And I watched it and I liked it. I wish they maybe would have done like a TV series with it instead to like really give each character their own like episode to kind of flesh that character out because they literally drop like 10 or 12 superheroes on you all at once and they all do such cool different things. And I mean, I think the movie handled it well enough, but I do think that it could have been better as a series as opposed to a 2.5 hour movie or whatever it ends up being. That being said, uh, the stakes on this one are really high. The acting is all great on it. Um, like cinematically, it's absolutely gorgeous. Um, Overall, a good time with this movie. Um, we're gonna put that as fantastic. I really do think it's a fantastic movie. You just have to you have to be open to enjoying it. I think, um, and don't give up on it like I did the first time. Hawkeye as a series, I think was pretty average. Not a whole lot sticks out in my mind on this show. I'm trying to think of exactly what the plot was. I really don't remember. I know it takes place sometime around Christmas. I know that she like looks up to Hawkeye. I know that Kingpin shows up in a Hawaiian shirt at some point. I know that um, the one woman who ends up playing Echo shows up too. Um, but I really don't remember much else about that show. I know I liked it when I watched it. I had fun with it, but I really couldn't tell you what it is. So I think that just kind of shows that it's, a relatively average show. Not bad, just average. Spider-Man No Way Home to me was an absolute masterpiece. I loved watching that in theaters. I went and saw it by myself, and even though I knew the other two Spider-Man were going to show up, it was still cool seeing them on screen again. This is where we really get that origin story for Peter Parker, when he loses Aunt May, which was really sad. All the other, prior villains coming in, they were just acting their butts off. Uh, really enjoyed that. Looking forward to what to do with Spider-Man now that he is truly Spider-Man. He's had his Uncle Ben death, more or less, with Aunt May dying, and now he doesn't have the special suit, and nobody knows who he is. So now he can truly be Spider-Man again, and really looking forward to what the MCU does with his character going forward. But man, that movie is so fun to watch every time. Just so well done. Um, Oscar Isaac killed it as Moon Knight, as those characters that he played, the multiple personality guys. Uh, I do wish that they would show more of the fighting because I know he would like black out and then people would be like dead and whatever. I feel like this was them trying to be a little more gritty without going full like Netflix Marvel shows. Unfortunately, this one really could have probably been helped by having a more mature rating, but overall, it was still great. Oscar Isaac is one of my all-time favorite actors. It was cool seeing him in the MCU. I really hope they bring this character back. Um, if not in the movies, at least for another show or something. But I would say that one was fantastic. A couple little things held it back, obviously, from being a masterpiece, but it was still fantastic. Um, you know what? Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I had a lot of fun with that one. I saw that one in theaters. I think it was great. Sam Raimi killed it as a director. The scene where Wanda's chasing him through like that sewer system was really scary and intense. Um, they really made her like a good villain. People were a little confused with why they made her a villain, but I think in the context of that story, it made sense. Benedict Cumberbatch once again killed it as Stephen Strange. Uh, I do wish they maybe would have done a little more with like having the different multiverses. It was cool seeing the Illuminati. Um, Although, people hate that scene because Mr. Fantastic is supposed to be really smart, but he was kind of dumb in that part. But I think in the context of the movie, it made sense. And that's what people have to do. They have to look at these with the context of the movie and the universe, not from anything that's happened in the comics. We can just kind of disregard all that at this point because they're not following these to a T. It's like a jumping point for that. But I really enjoyed Multiverse of Madness. Uh, I would say that one is also fantastic. Ms. Marvel, the TV series, was fun. I'm going to say it was average because um, I feel like some of the episodes maybe could have been shorter. I think they could have focused different. I feel like the villain was kind of shipped in towards the very end of the show. Um, I mean, Iman Vellani is amazing as Ms. Marvel. She has such like charisma, and she really enjoyed playing that part, and you can just tell. Uh, she was great on screen. I loved watching her like really step into her shoes on that one, and I look forward to more projects with her in the future of the MCU. Thor: The Love and Thunder is such a tough spot for people to talk about because a lot of people hate it because they think it went too far with the comedy, kind of missed the mark on some stuff. I remember going to see this one in the theaters and leaving the theaters very happy that I watched that movie, watched it at home again, and still thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Is it perfect? No, it's really not. I think Christian Bale was a great villain. I do wish that the villain did more villainous things, uh, as beating a dead horse again. But he's the God Butcher, and you really see him kill, like, for sure, one god. Um, it would have been, I think, great to see more of that. I do think that some of these projects were really held back uh, because these were done when like COVID was out, and maybe they should have just halted everything till they could have a full team and just really make this a good project. Um, I think it was actually a good move to bring Jane back and have the Aether, like, give her that sounds bad, give her cancer so we can see her character come in. I think it was great to see her as the mighty Thor. Just another movie where Thor loses, something he loves, but in the end, kind of has something to work with. Um, I really liked Love and Thunder. Um, Obviously not perfect, but I loved it. She-Hulk, Tatiana Maslany as Jennifer, who then turns into the She-Hulk because she gets some of her cousin's blood in her after a car accident. Um, some fun lawyer stuff, some great fight scenes. It was cool seeing Daredevil again. The fourth wall breaking was pretty clever, especially when she went into the Disney Plus like screen and found the Kevin robot. I enjoyed that a lot. But overall, I do think that the show itself was worth watching. So, uh, pretty average for that one. Uh, Next, we have something that really shocked me with how much I enjoyed it was Werewolf by Night. Uh, Another superhero thing where I was very unaware of who any of these people were. I honestly still don't know how this fits in with the MCU. They don't have it tied to anything as far as I'm aware, but man, was I in love with Werewolf Within, or whatever it's called. Um, I would say that one was fantastic. It was a short little movie um, with a cool premise. It was the goriest thing I've ever seen from the MCU, which was really cool. Uh, Man Thing was fun on screen. A lot of cool deaths, and the black and white aesthetic was great. I did not watch it when they oh, Werewolf by Night. Uh, I didn't watch it when they released it in color. I just watched the black and white one because it was perfect. And if I ever rewatch this again, I'm watching the black and white one. I don't need the color. Show it as it was intended, and I will watch it that way. But yeah, Werewolf by Night was a surprise hit for me. Uh, yeah, I the only reason it's not in the masterpiece is because I don't know what the heck the purpose of it was as far as like fitting in the MCU as a whole. Um, but worth watching for sure. Um, Black Panther Wakanda Forever had some big shoes to fill, especially because we lost Chadwick Boseman. Um, but I think it did really well introducing Namor and um, the underwater people, whatever they're called. I forget what they're called. Uh, the action was great in this one too. A lot of emotional moments in this one. Very well directed. I mean, the beginning funeral was just a great tribute to Chadwick. Um, Overall, I think this one was really good. I don't think it was quite as good as the first one. I think it was pretty close. Um, Kind of a long runtime, but I do think overall that this one does kind of fit as a masterpiece to me. Uh, I really do. I enjoy the Black Panther movies, and I'm really sad that we did lose Chadwick, and I do hope that you know they just continue with their high quality going forward. Um, the Guardians holiday special was hilarious. Not much to say about it. I do think that it just being Mantis and Drax trying to kidnap Kevin Bacon was a funny premise. I don't think it's quite as good as the other things, of course, but it definitely is a fun watch. And I don't remember too much from it other than the basic plot, but I remember enjoying it. So it can't be, you know, too horrible. So there's that. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is another one of those movies that people will really just kind of debate where it fits. I am one of those people who had a really good time watching this in the movie theater. I left the movie theater happy. Uh, Having MODOK on screen was insane, but I loved it. I loved him as MODOK. I don't care how it fits as far as like compared to comics. I think it was a perfect choice to throw him in that movie. Jonathan Majors really just killed it as Kang in this movie. Um, you really felt that he was going to be like the next big bad guy for how they did that. And I mean, the end scene with the Council of Kangs, and it was really well done. Um, it definitely had some more COVID type problems with it. I do think that like Bill Murray's character was completely unnecessary. I don't know why he was in there for the 10 minutes he was in there. Um, but I do enjoy watching this one the couple times I've seen it since it came out in theaters. Um, Not quite perfect, but still a fantastic piece of MCU that gets a bad rep for whatever reason. And to finish off the Guardians trilogy with Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I literally just finished this a couple weeks ago, and this is the most emotionally damaging of the three Guardians movies, with the focus being on Rocket and his future, not his future, and his whole deal. More loss for Quill, who's still dealing with losing Gamora. Um, and the team is as dysfunctional as it's ever been, but they make it work. Um, and the villain, the High Evolutionary, was one of the best MCU villains by no contest really. He kind of beats out a lot of them. He was truly evil to just be evil, and wasn't ashamed of it, and uh, he met his just rewards at the end of the movie. It's incredible that James Gunn gave us three solid movies in the MCU. So hats off to him. Uh, Masterpiece for Guardians 3. And then we have Secret Invasion, and Secret Invasion is bad. It's just bad. There was too much going on with this one, not enough answers, uh, not enough consequences for things. Sam Jackson was great. I think Olivia Colman was in this, and she was great too. I loved her on screen. Um, I was hoping for more from like Emilia Clarke, and the whole finale of this show just, I don't know, it was like a whimper. I was not thrilled with that one as much as I thought I was going to. I was going to give it a fair chance, and it just did not live up to expectations, unfortunately. So it's bad. I think there's still some stuff worth watching, but overall it's bad. Plus, they also got rid of Maria in like the first episode, and it was such a sad way for her to go. So, Secret Invasion is bad. Uh, Loki season 2, uh, also masterpiece. Uh, the time traveling, we have Victor Timely, Jonathan Majors once again acting his butt off on that show. Tom Hiddleston really just coming full circle with Loki. Uh, Owen Wilson was awesome, just like he was in the first season of Loki. I mean, it's such a good show. Definitely the top of the MCU like TV series that they have. Loki's awesome, and yeah, it's just great. Um, the Marvels, which is the last of the MCU movies up until Brave New World. Just watch that one. I remember going to see that in theaters, and I remember it being a little sloppy. but I liked it. And then watching it at home, I'm like, oh, this is really sloppy. Um, it's bad. The Marvels is bad. It's the problem is, I think, is they had to mess with like the release order of some of these, and it just missed the mark. It was cool seeing all of the heroes on screen, and when they were all on screen, it was awesome. The first scene where they're all three switching their powers and um, fighting the bad guys, I think was really well done. Um, there was just moments where things felt rushed or weird or off. Um, the villain Darben was just boring, and this movie just, it's another one of those ones where you can kind of skip it and you really won't miss too much story wise. The only thing you're going to miss is they're introducing the other universes with mutants in it, and that's really all you're missing in that one is that. um I mean, it's it's sad to say, but it that one definitely did not translate well at home as opposed to the theater, and that's that. Echo, where we get to see Kingpin again, and we get to see Echo as a hero. Um, this one was just, I remember enjoying it, but there was definitely moments where I was feeling bored. It was cool seeing Kingpin again. I mean, Vincent D'Onofrio is just the perfect guy for playing Kingpin. I mean, she was great as the hero, but there wasn't a whole lot else going on in this show to warrant it being a show. So I'm also going to put that one as bad, which is unfortunate. Um, and then we have Deadpool and Wolverine, bringing that one into the MCU because it's officially an MCU movie, and saw that one in theaters and absolutely enjoyed it for what it was. Watched it at home with my kids, the older kids, and you know what? Still had a good time. Uh, all the fun jokes, all the gratuitous violence and the swearing and all the things that make the Deadpool movies Deadpool. It was cool seeing that in the MCU. Seeing Wolverine, put the cowl on was awesome. Uh, I think having all the legacy characters show up too was really cool and unexpected. Uh, Absolutely enjoyed it. Masterpiece. No notes on that one. It was great. Getting pretty close to the end, and we have Agatha All Along, and that was an absolute disaster. That's the one. That's the one I was waiting for. I finished this show, and I could not tell you why they made this show. I don't know what the purpose of this show was. It was to give Catherine Hahn another excuse to be Agatha, but she was way more obnoxious in this show than she was in WandaVision. To see Aubrey Plaza get to play Death was fine. She didn't do a whole lot with it. Um, we get to see Billy, who is uh, Wiccan, which was Wanda's one of Wanda's children, and everything else in this show was an absolute waste of time. There was nothing enjoyable about this show. Um, the Witches Road song was played ad nauseum throughout it. It was just annoying, and the ending was as unsatisfying as it could be. And I mean, if they're going to use Wiccan in the future, then I guess that's the only reason to watch this show. But it was not enjoyable. I would refuse to watch this if someone wanted to watch it with me. I'd be like, no, I'm not watching this again. It was just not good at all. And I mean, if you look at how everything stacked up in my list, to have one thing as a disaster, I think is pretty remarkable for the MCU. And then the last one, the most recent release, which was Brave New World, the fourth Captain America movie. The first one was Sam Wilson as Captain America. You know what? Fantastic. Um, I really enjoyed it. I think the only thing that really did this movie a disservice was the trailer showing off the Red Hulk. I think that would have been a fun reveal for later on. I think they should have just showed, uh, Giancarlo's Sidewinder and a couple other, like fighting scenes and stuff like that. But I think they should have left Red Hulk off and just had that be a surprise for moviegoers because that was uh, interesting. I think, and I did my whole review on this movie, but seeing how everything worked out, I think it was a great time and just the right steps that we need in the MCU. And there we go. There's everything ranked except for the what ifs and the I Am Groot, just because I haven't seen those. I would say overall, this looks pretty good. Um, I wonder if everyone would like do this. What would happen? Like, would they see this the same? Would they say the MCU's fallen off? Because I look at this and I don't think it's fallen off. I see some shows that could have had some improvements, but the fact that uh two of the movies in my bad category were in the first couple years of the MCU is something. And I think the other ones that I have in the bad category are ones that people are going to agree with. Everything else is, at least mid or higher. And I have, you know, quite a few in the fantastic category, which is good. I know these are not award winning movies. I know they're not going to, bring home awards for scripts or acting or, certain things like that. But a superhero movie should be fun. And, maybe there should be a little bit of challenge on, like, you know, trying to change how you're feeling about certain things or whatnot. Like there some social commentary I think is okay, but you know, I guess the comics are, good triumphs over evil, and you see that in a lot of this, and that's what you're expecting. Um so yeah, there's my list. I would love, 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 love some comments on this list. And I want to. If you do a ranking like this, I want to see it. I want to see your ranking. I want to hear your thoughts on all this. Hit me up on all the social medias. I'm at Nodak Nerd. You can find me on Blue Sky, on X, on TikTok. Um, Make sure you're checking out all of my pals over at Odd Pods Media. We've got quite a few of them on YouTube as well, so make sure you're checking out their channels. Uh, this has been fun, and I look forward to seeing your guys' list too.